We are Silent Chollima.
We are Silent Chollima.
We are Silent Chollima.
What's up, guys? My name's Adrian, and I'll tell you a little backstory on Snort. Snort is an open source NIDS that is the most widely used NIDS in the world. It's used by such large organizations as Verizon, AT&T, the U.S. State Department, most U.S. military bases, and millions of medium to large businesses around the globe. In July 2013, Cisco announced that they would be acquiring the parent company of Snort, SourceFire Incorporated of Columbia, MD. This ensures that Snort will remain the dominant NIDS on the planet for some time to come, making it increasingly important that we understand Snort so we can evade it.
Hello, my name is Sean, and I will be speaking about configuring Snort and how to run Snort in intrusion detection mode. Configuring Snort. You can download Snort on all operating systems, but it is much easier to use on the Linux operating system. In this presentation, we will be using Backtrack 5. Snort comes with a default configuration file that for the most part will work with little editing. The configuration has plenty of comments to explain what each line and section does, so you can figure it out with little outside assistance. There are at least 3 areas though that need some attention and configuring: the external net variable, the home net variable, and the path to the Snort rules. Without the Snort rules, Snort is just a sniffer/packet logger, far from the powerful IDS it can be. That being said, let's get inside the Snort configuration file and make the minimum changes to get Snort to run as an effective IDS. Use any text editing program to do this. The location of the configuration file can vary, so be sure you know the location of your Snort configuration file. As you can see in the screenshot, the configuration file is comprised of 6 sections. 1. Set the variables on your network. 2. Configure dynamic loaded libraries. 3. Configure preprocessors. 4. Configure output plugins. 5. Add any runtime directives. And 6. Customize your rule set. We need to first set the variables to our internal and external network. They are defined by the lines var home net and var external net. We can define our home net as the IP address or subnet we are trying to protect. You see in the screenshot that it is set at any. This will work, but it is not optimal for detecting malicious activity. For this example, we should set the home net to our internal IP address, such as 192.168.1.1, or our internal subnet, such as 192.168.1.0/24. You can find the IP address of your network by using the ifconfig command in Backtrack 5 terminal or ipconfig in the command prompt in Windows. In most cases, security admin will define their external net as anything not in their home net. To accomplish this, we can simply negate the home net by adding an exclamation point before the $sign in home net. Next, we need to set our path to our rules. So we can see it, as we can see in the screenshot, about 2/3 of the way down, there is var rules path /etc/snort/rules and var preproc rules path /ect/snort/preproc rules. In most installations, this path will be correct, but it does vary with different installations. And we can simply leave it as is, but make certain that the rules are in the path and don't just assume they are. When you are done, simply save the Snort configuration file. Another thing to keep in mind, as new threats are discovered, new rules are added, so occasionally you should visit the Snort website and download the zip file with the most current rule set. Intrusion detection mode. To get Snort to operate in intrusion detection mode, we need to get Snort to use the configuration file that we just modified. Nearly all applications in Linux are controlled by a configuration file that is a simple text file. The same applies to Snort. Snort's configuration file is named snort.conf and is usually found at /etc/snort/snort.conf. So to get to Snort to use this configuration file, we need to start with snort/dev/c snort-dev-c/etc/snort/snort.conf, where C says use the configuration file, and /etc/snort/snort.conf is the location of the configuration file. When Snort starts in IDS mode, we begin to see a similar screen to that shown here, and eventually the screen will stop scrolling and Snort will begin to watch your network traffic.
Hello everybody, my name is Martin Rodriguez and I'll be talking to you about obfuscation. Signature-based IDS like Snort suffer from high false positives and spoofing attacks that can make the IDS useless, as more work needs to be done by the security analysts. Signature-based IDS like Snort creates a lot of false positive, in which are events that seem to be really harmful but in reality are very harmless. False negatives are the complete opposite, as they are the events that go undetected by the IDS because the IDS did not see a match. Before the attack, you should be conditioning attacks like injecting false packets for days, weeks, and months. Now I will be introducing obfuscation and explaining the steps on how to obfuscate your payload. Obfuscation by definition is to hide the intended meaning in communication. In attacker terms, this is typically done by encoding an attack with various random data to make the payloads look like some other than a malicious file. So for example, a victim may believe they are downloading a Spotify.exe software file, however, also may have a hidden package, also known as wrapping a file, designed to provide a backdoor to that system when installed. Another example is just adding random information to a file that will increase the size and look, making it seem like a different file, even though the original information is still hidden within. There are many tools available that can create payloads, aka methods to breach your system and encode it, so it will bypass most detection programs. One example is using Metasploit, that is free and can be found in Backtrack and Kali Linux. To access Metasploit in Kali Linux, go to Exploitation Tools and select Metasploit Framework under the Metasploit section. Once Metasploit opens, you can generate payloads using the various offerings using the MSF payload section. To see the options available, use the MFS payload-H to see available formats and MFS payload-L to see the actual payload options. For example, I used the popular reverse_TCP payload to exploit a Windows system. The next screenshots show selecting the payload, setting up the listing address my attack system as 192.168.255.135 with listing port 4444. The O parameter following the command lists the available options. Metasploit can generate different file formats. For this example, I'll generate an executable called important.exe using the x=important.exe after the original payload command is shown. This file should now be in the root folder. If a remote system executes this file and that system is vulnerable to this exploit, I will gain remote control to the system. There are many ways to sneak over this file, such as wrapping program like Senna or through various social engineering methods. Exploiting a system using the previous payload is great, however, can be stopped by many detection tools, aka antivirus, anti-malware, and so on. To bypass those defenses, Metasploit includes encoders found under MFS encode directory. To see encoders, use MFS encode command followed by -L to list available encoders or -H to see encoder properties. An attacker can run multiple encoders to increase the size and complexity of the original file, eventually developing some that will bypass most detection systems. In this picture, I'm showing you a list of all of the encoders, as I'm going to be using the first one here. So going back to the previous example, instead of generating a detectable payload, I generated a payload and used an encoder to hide my attack. This is done by piping together a payload generation with encoding. The next example shows me generating the same payload with an encoder used to obfuscate my file. I use the MFS encode-E command followed by the desired encoders. I used the first one on the list, aka CMD for and dash generate last and file name, which is more important than exe, and that is how you encode a payload.
Here is one attack for NIDS using for snort encryption. Encrypting a NIDS that needs to be able to examine the payload of every packet that crosses its path to be effective. This can be detrimental in multiple ways, the primary being encrypted network traffic. When SSL, SSH, and IPsec encrypted tunnels are established, they prevent NIDS from being able to interpret the packet's true payload. This allows an attacker to use a target's security against themselves. This can be particularly deadly when the system has the same root directory for both unencrypted HTTP and encrypted HTTPS websites. This is the default on Microsoft IIS as soon as a certificate is installed. In this scenario, the attacker uses any attack against the HTTPS website, such as SQL injection, buffer overflow, and directory transversals that would work on HTTP websites. Because the HTTPS uses SSL to provide connection, the traffic is encrypted and therefore flows past the NIDS without triggering an alert. Encryption can also prevent an attacker from being detected, as they do other unsavory things after they have compromised the host. The rising popularity of SSL VPNs will also likely contribute to this problem. SSL VPNs are designed to allow portable, easy to set up encrypted sessions between client stations and the corporate network. This allows people to use public internet terminals to securely connect to their corporate private networks to access electronic mail and other internal services. The SSL VPN has two challenges for our NIDS. First challenge is that the SSL VPN, an attacker can attack the network, and because the traffic is encrypted, the NIDS will not detect the attack. But even if they are detected, the chances of the individual being caught are very small. With the rising popularity of free internet access provided by restaurants, cafes, and libraries, and a tool like the SSL VPN, attackers can attack from anonymous locations with little fear of being tracked electronically or being caught. The second challenge is that even if the IDS were able to decrypt traffic on the fly to report attacks, the attacker can easily set up a large number of encrypted sessions from other hosts they control that could potentially prevent the NIDS from being able to decrypt the traffic meaningful to the attack. Another example of combining multiple attack techniques. To protect against an attacker encrypting their commands, the future NIDS should alert if they see any outbound encrypted sessions from any host that does not normally conduct encrypted sessions, as well as any large number of inbound sessions initiations that would be typical of a brute force password guessing attack over SSH or SSL VPN. And that's it.